The world didn't end with a bang. It ended with a flicker, a stutter, and then a great, profound silence. The zero-day anarchy was a ghost in the machine, a phantom that swept through the planet's digital veins and left it paralyzed. In the heart of a sprawling city, a mother pulled her child close, the sudden darkness turning familiar streets into a maze of dead metal and rising fear. Above them, the sky, once a tapestry of electric light, was now a hollow void, pricked only by indifferent stars and the orange glow of distant fires. Diana Prince watched the last broadcast before the world went dark. A news anchor's face, slick with sweat, stared out from the screen, his voice a frantic staccato of collapsing markets and failing grids. The headline blared in blood-red letters, "Zero-Day Anarchy." Then, the screen hissed, the lights in her apartment buzzed and died, and the anchor's panicked face dissolved into a single, fading point of light, leaving her alone in the sudden, suffocating quiet. In the cold, stone heart of the Batcave, Bruce Wayne felt no panic. Only the grim, heavy certainty of a prophet watching his darkest predictions come true. He had seen this coming in the data, in the endless cycle of human history, in the very soul of the species he had sworn to protect. They were a child playing with a loaded gun. The anarchy wasn't the disease, it was the final, fatal symptom. His hand, steady and sure, moved towards a console. With a single, deliberate press of a button, he gave the order. On a vast holographic display, the world ignited, not with fire, but with lines of cold, blue code. A network of terrifying complexity spread across the globe, a digital cancer designed to devour its host. The system came online, its purpose absolute, its name a final, damning judgment on mankind. Pandora Protocol, activated. A single encrypted message reached Diana before the last of the networks failed. It was Bruce's voice, flat and devoid of emotion, explaining the unthinkable. He wasn't trying to stop the chaos. He was the chaos. He was resetting the world. The word struck her with physical force, a betrayal so profound it stole the air from her lungs. This wasn't salvation. It was annihilation. She found him in the deepest level of the cave, standing like a statue amidst the hum of his terrible creation. "You have no right, Bruce," she pleaded, her voice echoing in the cavern. "Humanity deserves the chance to choose its own fate." He turned, his face a mask of cold resolve. "I've made the choice for them," he said. "I chose survival over the freedom to self-destruct." Words had failed. She lunged, a blur of motion, but he was ready. He didn't throw a punch or a weapon, but fired a concussive energy blast from his gauntlet. She met it with her bracelets, the clang of impact echoing like a thunderclap. The air crackled, the scent of ozone filling the space between them. The argument was over. The battle had begun. Across the globe, the protocol's work was swift and silent. In a darkened alley, a young boy stared down at the smartphone that had once been a window to the world. Now its screen was a fractured mirror, sparking feebly before going dark forever. The magic was gone, leaving only a useless piece of glass and plastic, a relic of a forgotten age. Humanity, stripped of its technological crutch, stumbled. In the shadow of skyscrapers that no longer reached for the sky but stood as silent tombs, people learned to be primitive again. A man and a woman, strangers an hour ago, now huddled together, feeding scraps of paper into a fire built in a trash can, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames, the only warmth in a cold new world. Back in the cave, Diana's horror turned to a righteous fire. He would not listen to reason. He would not see the hope, only the failure. If she could not convince the man, she would destroy the machine. With a cry that was both a challenge and a lament, she charged, her lasso of truth igniting in her hand, a golden promise in the encroaching dark. He met her charge not with aggression, but with an unyielding defense. Her blows, strong enough to shatter mountains, glanced off his advanced armor. He moved with a brutal, calculating grace, his entire being focused on a single purpose: to endure. To stand as the final guardian of his terrible, world-changing decision. He would not be moved. They broke apart, circling each other in the gloom. On a massive, cracked monitor behind them, the final stage of the protocol played out. Fiery streaks of light rained down through the atmosphere as satellites fell from their orbits. Across the face of the planet, the last lights of civilization blinked out, continent by continent. Diana stared at the screen, then back at Bruce. He hadn't just pulled a plug. He had pushed the world over a cliff. The cavern floor was a graveyard of shattered metal. Diana moved like a storm, her fists and feet a blur against the swarm of bat drones that descended from the ceiling. They were relentless, firing non-lethal rounds that still hit like hammers. But she was divine, a whirlwind of defiance. "Is this your new world, Bruce?" she yelled over the din. An army of machines to protect humanity from itself. From a raised platform, Bruce watched, his eyes narrowed. Every move Diana made was data, every parry a variable. His suit's HUD scrolled with predictive algorithms, analyzing her speed, her strength, her combat patterns. He wasn't fighting a friend. He was dissecting a threat to his new world order. But beneath the cold analysis, a flicker of something else stirred. Admiration? Regret? He pushed it down. The mission was all that mattered. On a monitor, a live feed from Gotham showed a different kind of survival. A group of people, their faces smudged with soot, worked together, passing buckets of water down a line to douse a fire. There was no panic, only a quiet, determined rhythm. They were rebuilding, not with technology, but with their bare hands and the unshakable will to endure. Another feed flickered to life, this one from a small-town park. Children, who had never known a world without screens, were playing. They had fashioned a seesaw from a fallen log and a plank of wood. Their laughter, clear and bright, was a sound of pure, unadulterated life, a sound that had been so often drowned out by the digital noise of the world that was. Diana saw the images. She paused in her assault, letting a drone crash harmlessly against her bracelets. "Look, Bruce," she said, her voice softer now, pleading. "This is what you're trying to save them from? Laughter? Community? An old woman is sharing her last can of food with a stranger. Is that a flaw you need to correct?" Bruce's mind reeled. The new images warred with the terabytes of data that had justified his actions. He saw flashes of the past, riots, wars, famines, the endless, screaming data points of humanity's failures. But now they were overlaid with a child's smile, with the quiet dignity of strangers helping one another. His perfect cold equation was being corrupted by an illogical, stubborn variable. Hope. It's not enough. Bruce roared, unleashing a new wave of defenses. The floor plates shifted, energy barriers erupted, and heavy turrets emerged from the walls. But Diana's resolve had hardened. She was no longer just fighting him, she was fighting for the world on those screens. With a powerful cry, she slammed her bracelets together, the resulting shockwave shattering the barriers and tearing the turrets from their moorings. She found him at the heart of the machine, a pulsating sphere of energy that was the nexus of the Pandora Protocol. They stood facing each other, both breathing heavily, their armor and bodies battered. The hum of the core was the only sound. "It ends now, Bruce," Diana said, her voice low and final. "One way or another." He lunged, but she was faster, not with a fist, but with her lasso. The golden lariat snaked out, wrapping around his armored torso, and glowed with an incandescent light. The lasso of truth. It didn't just compel him to speak, it compelled him to see. "Why?" she asked, the single word carrying the weight of their broken friendship. "Tell me the real reason." The truth flooded his mind, raw and unfiltered by logic. He saw not humanity's failure, but his own. His fear, The endless, gnawing fear of loss that had haunted him since that night in the alley. He wasn't saving the world. He was caging it, trying to protect it from the same random, senseless pain that had created him. It was the ultimate, arrogant act of a terrified child. A single tear traced a path down the grime on his cheek beneath the cowl. The lasso fell loose. Diana didn't need to hold it anymore. Bruce stumbled to the master control panel, his movements heavy, as if the weight of his revelation was a physical burden. His gloved hand, trembling slightly, hovered over the emergency shutdown sequence. He had built a world without choice. Now he had to make one. Months later, the world was quiet. Not the dead silence of the protocol, but a living quiet. In a field overlooking a healing city, new green shoots pushed their way through the cracked earth. Humanity was rebuilding, slowly, imperfectly, but with a freedom they had almost lost. The future was unwritten, a terrifying and beautiful blank page, and for the first time in a long time, that felt like a victory.